Good morning, guys. How are we all doing? I am Dan from Trading with Dan. This is our Bitcoin morning update. So if you guys wouldn't mind smashing that like button, we shall go straight over to those Bitcoin 4-hour charts. So yeah, Bitcoin, where we left off yesterday, we were hoping we would hold this just under $44,000 level, but it wasn't to be. But that was not the be all and end all. We were kind of looking at the fact that we could then get supported anywhere in this range here. We didn't need to necessarily come down and test this support area, just because we've got a lot of previous price action here, as you can see in this range. So it would make sense for Bitcoin to be able to hold this range, which it has thus far. So our aim is to get back above 4,400 and then come and test into the next resistance zone and try and take out this wick high here. Obviously to the downside, we have got this wick low here, which I think if we take that out, we will be looking to fully and formally test into this $41,000 to $42,000 level, where obviously we need to hope we hold, because if we don't, we are going to drop back into our we're going to go and drop back into our old range down here. So yeah, a bit of a period of sideways here. It is all fine if we trade sideways between these areas, above 42, below this upper resistance around 46 for a period of time. That is not the worst thing to happen. And then obviously as long as ultimately we break out to the top zone, but for us not to be rejected at present below this level, or even test it, is clearly a bullish sign, because we are coming off the back of a pretty prolonged downtrend where there will be lots of resistance to the upside until we kind of do fully break bullish. I would say until we do get into the mid 50s, where I think we might see quite a lot of euphoria come in once we take out this level here. And then obviously if we take out 58,000, then we'll probably be going towards easily going towards new all-time highs at that point. What we have got helping us out is the good old stock market, as we can see, recovering a bit here from this support zone. This is similar to Bitcoin. What we need is the S&P to hold within this area, not fall back below, not fall back into this area, and then ultimately take out this $4,600 level. Take out 4,600, get back up to here, things will start to look pretty rosy, and yeah, the ever stock market bulls will just come and buy this back up to new all-time highs, most likely. Oil easing off, obviously, with just a easing off in the tensions with Ukraine. Apparently Macron somehow convinced Putin not to invade or something like that. The only problem we do have with, like, say, Russia, China, all the stuff, and Taiwan, and all that stuff going on in the world at the moment, is that we are in a period, obviously, with the Winter Olympics, where obviously everyone's on their best behavior. All political leaders are on their relative best behavior, but obviously that will come to an end, and then obviously it will probably be no more Mr. Nice Guy from particularly China, and then obviously Russia then, as a sort of domino effect, may take that opportunity to then start to do stuff. So we could be in for a bit of a turbulent period after the Olympics, but yeah, we shall see. So then oil could then obviously have a bit of resumption to the upside, obviously after a bit of consolidation here. But this is not looking bad at all. Like I was saying, a lot of people were shorting oil here, they got squeezed, and now we are coming back down. I wouldn't be surprised if that is the local high, and then we do come and test 85, potentially even lose 85 to get a lot of the FOMO longers out here, because there were a lot of people selling into this level. So obviously there had to be a lot more people buying because we went up. So there was a lot of buyers above this level. So it would make sense for oil to drop down below 85, come back towards 80 to squeeze all these guys out before resuming to the upside. But structurally, everything is obviously bullish for the energy complex. So but we obviously know markets meander around, they go up further and for longer than you expect, and then they do retrace usually further than what people expect. 10-year tapped our level. Look at it, tapped it to the T finally on a 4-hour-9 as well. Now easing off. I mean, this has got to properly ease off here. You could potentially look at this as similar to the oil market. People were looking at a top here, one last squeeze up, and then we do come down. If we just compare that to oil, you can see looking like we're topping off here, one last squeeze up, and then looking to potentially come down. We could be seeing this in the 10-year. I mean, the way that I see things is that the dollar is still relatively, I say relatively weak. It's not pushing onwards and upwards. So there is still clearly risk on even with this pushing up. But also the fact that, I mean, the market's pricing in like a higher likelihood of like literally nearly 7 rate hikes this year, which it befuddles me that that the markets can price that in, because I mean people think that they're gonna raise 50 basis points in March. I mean, in all fairness, I think we'll be lucky to see the 25 basis point rise, let alone 50, let alone other meetings where they'll have more than 25 basis point rise. It's just ludicrous. I think the market has got this wrong. But yeah, we shall see. we shall see what happens. It's a bit wild. But what I do want to say on the plus side, obviously there is the whole adage that equity markets are a bit dumb compared to the bond markets, and the equity markets are eventually going to have to price in all these rate hikes. But what I kind of see is that yeah, maybe to a certain extent they tend to be reactionary to the bond market, but on obviously with a delay. But if the stocks are still looking okay while we're pricing in nearly 7 rate hikes this year, or getting towards 7 rate hikes, then that's clearly bullish. So because I'm bullish on the basis that that one, they can hold up in the face of that, and two, I don't think that's even going to happen. So obviously if that doesn't happen, those rate hikes, that's clearly extra bullish. And we can see a lot of the inflation plays are doing all right. Gold obviously, after getting slammed down with obviously Jerome Powell talking, is now nearly all the way back up, and it will well, yeah, I mean, there you go. Just shows the demand is there for inflation hedges. Don't forget, stocks are inflation hedges. We might be undergoing a great rotation from obviously growth to value out of big tech. Big tech particularly getting whacked, obviously, certain ones anyway, Facebook most notably. But yeah, a lot of big tech getting whacked. But yeah, so even in the face of that, we're having a rotation. We're having a rocking of the ship, and eventually, like I said before, I think the ship will steady, and then we'll continue on our merry way. So yeah, I think ultimately that will all be fine. What else did I want to talk about? Inflation. Oh yeah, I mean, speaking of inflation hedges, let's if we break down what an inflation hedge is, it's basically something that isn't money, and the inflation is of the money to supply. So you buy anything that isn't money, isn't currency, because the currency is becoming worth less. Therefore, those inflation hedges are going up in price, and they are like they're hedging the loss of your purchasing power, as opposed to necessarily going up in their own right. They're going up against the loss of the purchasing power. So if you break that down to its basic level, Bitcoin is an alternative currency. It is an inflation hedge, and I know it has been trading along with quite merrily with tech stocks, and tech stocks buy it, but Bitcoin isn't a tech stock, and obviously tech stocks getting whacked isn't necessarily or isn't as bearish for Bitcoin as the chart may suggest. It moves obviously on liquidity and obviously inflation. As long as we have inflation, Bitcoin is still going to perform well. The only environment where Bitcoin won't perform well is deflation, which is the environment that no assets trade well in, other than obviously cash and bonds, which are basically just cash, which are basically just cash given to you in the future, i.e. cash is just zero dated bonds. So yeah, obviously in a deflation environment, you just want the cash because every asset is going down in price. But yeah, other than that, Bitcoin basically is bullish. So at some point we probably will. I mean, if we look at what is going on generally with commodities, don't forget Bitcoin is in inverted commas a commodity. So it is classed as that by the SEC. So yeah, I mean, the narrative could change. We all love a good change of narrative when it suits us in the crypto environment, obviously. But yeah, the narrative could change back to the inflation hedge, especially if it does start to do well in the face of stock markets just kind of floundering and not doing a lot and just generally rotating and just generally being sideways, and maybe not necessarily pushing too much higher. So yeah, there is that element there. What else do I want to look at? Not too much else. Just back to geopolitical risk. Maybe obviously if when it is no more Mr. Nice Guy, and then maybe China starts to kick off, and then Russia just decides it'll take its opportunity. These countries, I mean, the best attack vector for the US is the dollar. And yeah, because I mean, if you do basically if you trolley the dollar, the US is just a basket case. It's practically a basket case to a certain extent anyway, and it just won't be able to afford anything. Inflation will be just truly insanely rampant in the UK, in the US, because they won't, with their devalued dollar. If the dollar does basically find a fair price level, factoring out the world reserve currency status, the value attached to that, then yeah, the US is done. So whilst China and Russia may not like Bitcoin, they may see it as a means to an end, or just look for other currencies to use, which basically just negate the dollar. So that is what I would do if I was them. And yeah, that will clearly be extremely bullish for Bitcoin, and just the dollar getting whacked also is bullish for Bitcoin as well. Anyway, so yeah, then even the US, even the states that aren't happy with potentially aren't happy with the administration that are making noises towards him, trying to legalize Bitcoin as a tender or whatever they're trying to do, they will be more inclined to do so if the dollar is struggling. So yeah, we could hit that, could be the next driver for Bitcoin to yeah, I mean, maybe even to like 100 to 200k. If that is to play out like that, that literally would be what we would have on the cards. So yes, let's have our final look at those stochastics. I mean, yeah, short-term pressure, as we knew, 4 hour, 10 hour, 12 hour, surely still coming down. So pressure there. Daily getting a bit toppy, but it's still pointing up, and then all these ones look great. So these ones are the ones kind of telling me we are going to be in an uptrend towards the mid 50,000s before we decide what to do. These higher time frames obviously all turning up from a low level, but yeah, in the short term we can come down. But the battle between those shorter and medium to longer term time frames are clearly what could basically keep it volatile within this area before obviously those shorter time frames reset, and then yeah, then we get that drive up through this next resistance level. That is how I perceive things. So barring a severe move down in the stock market, which doesn't look likely, I think we certainly hold this support level, and it's just a matter of time before we break up. And then as we take out each of these horizontal resistance levels, this downtrend looks more and more negated, and more momentum traders will come in and start to play the trend to the upside, and also obviously more and more of the shorters will just cover, and then and that will obviously drive price upwards as well. So things are looking particularly rosy in my opinion. Obviously a spanner could be thrown into the works from any direction, but I think politically there isn't necessarily the appetite for it quite at the moment. I mean, if I wanted to, like, I think we are potentially in any storm that is coming. If there is a storm coming, we are definitely in a calm. We have got a calm period before that storm, maybe a couple of months. So let's just make hay whilst the sun shines, and I will try and stop with the analogies and how. But yeah, anyway, there we go, guys. Remember, this is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. All I will say is just watch this. If this breaks back above here, it will potentially accelerate. If it just accelerates to the upside, that is gonna cause problems. That could instigate a decent stock market sell-off. So yeah, we shall see what happens there. But yeah, thanks for listening. Remember, this is not a financial advice. Always do your own research, and I shall speak to you guys soon.